Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. In this session, we'll be discussing from the 40th verse of the 8th chapter of the first canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam. Continuing the prayers by Queen Kunti. Ime janapadas vriddha supakvaushadhi virudhaha vanadrinadyudanvanto hyedante tava vikshitaihi. The meaning of this verse is, all these cities and villages are flourishing in all respects because the herbs and grains are in abundance, the trees are full of fruits, the rivers are flowing, the hills are full of minerals, and the oceans full of wealth. And this is all due to your glancing over them. Kunti is offering prayers to Krishna. Because of Krishna's glance, there is prosperity, abundance of everything. So Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport, human prosperity flourishes by natural gifts and not by gigantic industrial enterprises. In the modern civilization, people think industries are generating many jobs, increasing the wealth of the nation, increasing the GDP, and giving so many nice gadgets and facilities and machines for people's comfort. But actually, there is the negative side of this industrial development. So many problems due to these industries which are not generally highlighted or discussed by the industrialists themselves. Just like the waste generated, the pollution, the dependence on artificial way of living, all this has actually led to destroying the finer sentiments of a human being. So, Srila Prabhupada explains some of these things in the purport. The gigantic industrial enterprises are products of a godless civilization, and they cause the destruction of the noble aims of human life. This is what Prabhupada is explaining. They cause the destruction of the noble aims of human life. The more we go on increasing such troublesome industries to squeeze out the vital energy of the human being, the more there will be unrest and dissatisfaction of the people in general, although a few only can live lavishly by exploitation. Not everybody actually is prosperous because of the industries. It's only a few people who are becoming very, very rich. And they ensure that they have all the best facilities for their stay, for their family members, for their comfortable living, etc. But they end up exploiting the poor people. The natural gifts such as grains and vegetables, fruits, rivers, the hills of jewels and minerals, and the seas full of pearls are supplied by the order of the Supreme as He desires. Material nature produces them in abundance or restrict them at times according to the desire of the Supreme Lord. The natural law is that the human being may take advantage of these godly gifts by nature and satisfactorily flourish on them without being captivated by the exploitative mentality of lording it over material nature. The industrial enterprises are basically exploitation due to the tendency of lording. But accepting the gifts of nature given by Krishna, the Supreme Lord, who is actually the one who is directing material nature, Maya Adhyakshena Prakritihi Suyate Sucharacharam. So then we may accept them and live very nicely without destroying the noble aim of life, that is God consciousness, God realization. The more we attempt to exploit material nature according to our whims of enjoyment, the more we shall become entrapped by the reaction of such exploitative attempts. Material nature is entangling if we try to exploit. We should always remember that. If we have sufficient grains, fruits, vegetables, herbs, then what is the necessity of running a slaughterhouse and killing poor animals? You see, result of industrial enterprises, they have this huge mechanized slaughterhouses, and they're killing poor animals unnecessarily. When there is sufficient grains and fruits and vegetables, why should they kill animals, poor animals? A man need not kill an animal if he has sufficient grains and vegetables to eat. This is a fact. The flow of rivers waters the fields. The flow of river waters fertilizes the fields, and there is more than what we need. Minerals are produced in the hills and the jewels in the ocean. If the human civilization has sufficient grains, minerals, jewels, water, milk, etc., then why should we hanker after terrible industrial enterprises at the cost of the labor of some unfortunate men? See, industries always exploit poor people. The labor class of people are exploited. But all these natural gifts are dependent on the mercy of the Lord. What we need, therefore, is to be obedient to the laws of the Lord and achieve perfection of human life by devotional service. Simply by doing devotional service and doing our other duties for maintaining ourselves, Krishna will supply everything in plenty, just like Kunti Devi is describing. The indications by Kunti Devi are just to the point. She desires that God's mercy be bestowed upon them so that natural prosperity will be maintained by His grace. So by Krishna's mercy, there will be prosperity, because Krishna is directing material nature. Further, Srila Prabhupada explains, Kunti Devi mentions that the grains are abundant, the trees are full of fruits, the rivers flowing nicely, the hills are full of minerals, and the oceans are full of wealth. But she never mentions that industry and slaughterhouses are flourishing. For such things are nonsense that men have developed to create problems. Such things as factories and industries are modern developments. They never existed in the Vedic culture, Vedic civilization. Never existed, never. If we depend on God's creation, there will be no scarcity. but simply ananda or bliss. God's creation provides sufficient grains and grass. While we eat the grains and fruits, the animals like the cows will eat the grass. The bulls will help produce grains, and they will take only a little, being satisfied with what we throw away. If we take fruit and throw away the skin, the animal will be satisfied with the skin. If anybody has got a goshala, then they have experienced that. We take the vegetable and the peel, we give it away to the animals. We take the fruit and the peel, we give it to the animals. And they are happy and they're satisfied and they're nourished by those peels. In this way, with Krishna in the center, there can be full cooperation between the trees, animals, human beings, and all living entities. This is Vedic civilization, a civilization of Krishna consciousness. Very important to note. Vedic civilization is a civilization of Krishna consciousness. Simply by cooperation between all the varieties of living beings, there is plenty for everyone. There is prosperity. The whole world. Kunti Devi prays to the Lord, this prosperity is due to your glance. She is telling Krishna. So Prabhupada says, when we sit in the temple of Krishna, Krishna glances over us and everything is nice. When sincere souls try to become Krishna's devotees, Krishna very kindly comes before them in his full opulence and glances upon them, and they become happy and beautiful. So whenever you visit the temple of Krishna, just sit in front of Krishna and let his merciful glance fall on you. Then there will be plenty, there will be prosperity, there will be no scarcity. This is a fact. This is a fact. 100% fact. Similarly, the whole material creation is due to Krishna's glance. This is what the scriptures tell us. Sa aikshata, this is a statement in the Upanishads. Sa aikshata, sa asrujata. This is the statement of the Upanishads. In the Vedas, it is said that he glanced over matter, thus agitating it. And there was a creation. The whole creation took place. Simply by Krishna's glance, matter becomes agitated and then becomes pregnant and gives birth to the living entities. Krishna injects the living entities into the womb of material nature. Tasmin garbham dadamyaham, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. It is simply by Krishna's glance that plants, trees, animals, and all of the living entities come forth. How is this possible? None of us can say, simply by glancing over my wife, I can make her pregnant. Not possible for us. Although this is impossible for us, it is not impossible for Krishna. The Brahma Samhita says, Angani yasya sakalendriya vritti manti. What does this mean? It means every part of Krishna's body has all the capabilities of all the other parts of his body. With our eyes, we can only see. But Krishna, merely by seeing, can make others pregnant. There is no need of sex. For simply by glancing, Krishna can create pregnancy. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, in the 9th chapter, 10th verse, Maya dhyakshena prakritihi suyatesu characharam. By my supervision, material nature gives birth to all moving and non-moving living beings. The word aksha means eyes. So akshena indicates that all living entities take birth because of the Lord's glance. So this is clearly explained in the scriptures, and from the scriptures we can understand this fact. So Krishna doesn't have to endeavor like we endeavor for anything. No. So therefore, simply by Krishna's grace, if we become devotees, if we become Krishna conscious, there will be no scarcity, we will have plenty and we'll be having prosperity. I'll stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.